Well, shares in Canada's big three telecom giants, Rogers, TELUS, and Bell, have taken a bit of a dive, I guess. The drop follows reports that U.S. giant Verizon looking to dip into the Canadian market by buying Wind Mobile, for instance. Sources say Verizon has offered $700 million for the struggling startup carrier. Rogers' shares fell more than 9%, TELUS 8%, Bell shed 4%. And that is your business update. But those are the subjects we want to cover in terms of the marketplace. So joining me is Ashleigh Patterson, Senior Finance Editor at Yahoo Canada. Verizon disrupting the marketplace. How can this possibly be such a big surprise to the market?
Well, that's a good question. I don't necessarily know if it was a big surprise, but it's definitely, if this deal goes through, it's going to be a game changer for the telecom industry. Hence why we saw telecom stocks in Canada yesterday just get completely hammered. So Globe and Mail first reported they had two sources saying that Verizon has essentially made or is in talks for a $700 million purchase of Wind Mobile. And they're also in preliminary discussions to possibly buy out struggling rival carrier Mobilicity as well, which would give them a foothold in this country. Verizon is a behemoth in the U.S. It's the second largest U.S. carrier. They have approximately 99 million subscribers in the States, which is triple the population of Canada. So if they do enter the market, whether it just be a tow or they come in full force, it's going to be a big game changer.
Never mind that Mobilicity was looking at a TELUS deal, and that got shot down by the CRTC.
Right. So essentially they said that TELUS could not get Mobilicity's spectrum transferred over to them, and spectrum is essentially the licenses that these carriers need to operate in Canada. And that's because Ottawa really is pushing for more competition in the telecom space, basically to give consumers more choice. They're really looking for that fourth national carrier, and they squashed that deal because if TELUS bought up Mobilicity, then that really wouldn't be giving consumers the choice that they need.
In addition, CRTC has pushed off its wireless auction of more spectrum, I believe, until January, right?
Yeah, January 2014. And the deadline to apply for that spectrum auction is going to be September. So really, Verizon has to get this deal in place if they want to participate. And if they do participate, that will helpfully, help them get a foothold in the market. They're saying that in addition, analysts are saying in addition to the $700 million that they will pay for Wind, for them to actually get set up in Canada, it could cost anywhere between $1 and $2 billion, and that would include the spectrum auction as well. And the spectrum auction means big dollars for the government. They're expected to raise $900 million in this spectrum auction, but that's minimum. I mean, the last spectrum auction in 2008, they raised over $4 billion, and that's when we saw Wind Mobile, Mobilicity, and Public Mobile really enter the Canadian market. Okay,
but all this, I mean, it's good for the government. More importantly, it's good for you and me as consumers.
Right, absolutely. I mean, more choice means good things for consumers, especially in the wireless industry. I mean, Canadians pay some of the highest rates for wireless in the world. I remember when I lived in Asia, I was paying $13 a month for my cell phone.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's just not seen.
With data?
No, this was before smartphones, but I mean, that's just not seen right now in Canada. And so if Verizon enters, they will really be able to do two things. Number one is to hopefully reduce U.S. roaming fees because they have such a large network in the States. They might be able to offer North America-wide coverage, which would be huge for consumers. Consumers last year, Canadians I should say, spent $1.5 billion on U.S. roaming fees alone. So hopefully Verizon will be able to come in and really lower those costs for consumers as well. Because they're such a huge company, they have such purchasing power, they can really negotiate better deals in terms of hardware. So they get phones at a cheaper price, which hopefully will be passed on to consumers as well. And we know that with the new CRTC rules, wireless rules of conduct coming into play later this year, that will be a big thing for consumers because when you reduce your contract from 3 years to 2 years, that may potentially boost the cost of your wireless bill because you have to wrap in the cost of hardware in there. So if Verizon can come in and undercut the current incumbents, then that could be good news for consumers.
And create the competition, because if Verizon comes in and the rates are that much, you don't mind paying off your phone bill, if you will, and buying out your phone to move it across to get the cheaper rates. It'll be interesting. I do want to talk about gold, though. We're down to $1,227 I saw first thing this morning. I mean, that's a long way. There was support kind of at the 1,400, but it went down fast.
Yeah,
what's going on?
Like you said, we just blew right through that. And it looks like the new resistance level is going to be around 1,200, but some analysts are even predicting that gold could fall under $1,000 per ounce, which is kind of shocking once you think about gold's meteoric rise over the past few years. So really what's happening is it's all about the Fed, essentially. So last week, the U.S. Federal Reserve came out and said that they were going to possibly begin tapering their $85 billion a month bond buying program based upon the strength of the U.S. economy. And so that has essentially just sent gold right down.
Yeah, no question about it. It used to be a competing currency, if you will. But the U.S. dollar is so attractive now because of that growing economy.
Absolutely. The U.S. dollar has completely just, started to rise. And like you said, gold traditionally was not only a hedge against inflation, but a hedge against currency debasement. And also we're seeing government bonds yields spike as well, and they move inversely to gold. So gold is really getting hammered from a number of areas. Also, we're seeing that gold's biggest buyers in China and India potentially might be tightening up on that buying, and so that's also hammering the bullion as well.
Was it ever? Okay, Ashleigh, great to see you every
Great
week.
to see you too. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Ashleigh Patterson, Senior Finance Editor at Yahoo Canada.